It's just another little sign of the arrogance inside the bubble. Why? Because we've always had it. We had it before. We're not giving it up. For PR reasons, if nothing else, they ought to jettison that one. The DROP program, Deferred Retirement Option Plan, if you're not familiar with that. Let's say a veteran firefighter is ready to retire. He's put in the right years, he's got the right package, but he's reaching age 50, but he feels like, I still got a few good years left in me. It's a program, and I believe it's in the police contract, right? It was approved in the police contract, I think, in the fall. You retire, but then you keep working. A typical, when this is done in other states, a typical term would be another 5 years. So what happens is, you're working and you're still earning your high end of career salary, okay? And now you are contributing to the pension fund, but you're also getting pension checks. You don't get them in your hands right away. They're deferred, hence the term deferred retirement option. They're deferred, and then you get it in a lump sum at the end of the 5 years or whatever your extended working term is. So, the virtue of it is supposed to be, well, we keep some veteran people in the mix longer and benefit from their knowledge and their experience. Yeah, but it just feels like you're paying them twice. It feels like double dipping. And if what you should do is, if you want to keep working, that's great, and we'd love to have you, and we could use you. We ought to raise the minimum retirement age to 50 for all firefighters. That's really what we should be doing. It's 45 right now. So we're not fans of the drop the drop. There's a strange provision. To me, it's kind of strange. We find it kind of strange. Both parties agree that this agreement, along with any relevant memorandum of understandings, general orders from the fire chief, and or executive orders from the mayor, expresses the full and total agreement between the parties. Now, I stood up to the personnel board and I said, doesn't that make you nervous? If I was sitting in your seat, what that means to me is this agreement is not limited to the four corners of the document before us. There could be other pieces of paper floating out there, or 6 months from now or a year from now, the mayor could issue a memo, or the fire chief issues some kind of order that could substantively change the contract, and it sounds like it's automatically included. And I asked the city guys, afterwards, I'm not going to quote you, and I'm not going to quote them now. It was off the record, but what am I missing here? Well, yeah, you could issue something, but if it was really out of line, you'd get smacked down for it. Well, okay. It makes me nervous, I'll tell you. The fact that it seems like it could be changed arbitrarily, if it's going to stay in, I'd like to at least see a clause that says also subject to approval by the city council after a public hearing or something, so the public at least is aware in case it's a significant change that's being made. Makes me nervous. I'd rather let Franklin and Jean get a look at anything that's going to be changed, before it goes through, and I don't know if they'd have the votes or not, but at least draw the public's attention to it so we know what's going on. All right, there's a public hearing August 9th. That's the phone number if you want to reach a council member by phone, or you can contact them through their website. So what's our message to them? 50-50 split on the pension, because I think that's how you could try to change the environment, change the dynamics, and it's not the taxpayers against the firefighters. We're on the same side. We need to get that pension pushed down. I think if they have as much skin in the game as we do, I'm saying the firefighters, current firefighters, if they have as much skin in the game as we do, if it's truly an employer-employee match split burden, maybe there's a chance to come at this in a new way and get them on our side to try to reform the pension part of this contract. Maximum payout 65%, and you only use base pay to calculate it. Get that staffing language out of there and just leave it as a management prerogative. Delete that language about memos and orders, or at least add a clause bringing the city council into the mix if there's going to be a change after this contract's been voted on. And drop the drop. And if you want to keep veterans around longer, raise the minimum retirement age. I think, I don't know, maybe I'm naive. I'm counting on the fact that citizens are aware now of what happened in 2003. Now, there was this little matter of a recall that happened, all right? Again, maybe I'm naive. I did not see that as an endorsement of these kinds of contracts. I saw it more as the people did not like the smell of a recall, okay? I guess we'll find out. I'm still optimistic that people know what happened, and they don't want to see business as usual continue. To me, a pension formula that requires 30 or 33% contribution by taxpayers when other cities are 10%, 15%, 18%. No. We want a mayor and a city council that are going to fight for terms that are more fair to the taxpayers. I'm not trying to beat up firefighters or anybody else in government. I've served in government. I don't know that much about city government except for what I follow in the news, but I served in county government. Tom, I found it really lean and mean. I think county government, when you look at the demands made on county government, that's where the rubber meets the road for a lot of social services. A lot more demands for services with not that many more people. So it's not that we want to bash government, but these contractual terms have to be more fair to the taxpayer. We're counting on the fact that citizens are tracking which politicians just accommodate the status quo, accommodate the public sector bubble, and which ones are willing to challenge it. And 18 months from now, you know, the calendar turns to 2013 and the city election cycle will be in full swing. And I can guarantee you the Alliance will be out there reminding voters what was offered, what alternatives were out there, and who accepted them, who rejected them, and how things played out. That concludes our presentation, and what we'd like to do now is open it up to Q&A, and I especially encourage any of our board members who have observations to jump in here as well. This is an open conversation now.
I just want to point out that there is some momentum in the legislature next year, not to work on the CIR bill again, but they say that they will if it proves to be a disadvantage to the city. But there is a real push and momentum to, in the retirement committee anyway, to move cities from a defined benefit to a defined contribution plan. In 1984, you know this, in the legislature, it was passed that all cities would go to a defined contribution plan, a 401k. Only Omaha and Lincoln opted out of it. We have our unfunded liability. Fremont, the other cities do not. Now, the other thing that is being pushed around in the legislature, you know that there was a push for a half penny on the sales tax that the mayor supported. And the Republicans, at least down there, and the Democrats alike, they really didn't have much of an appetite for it. What is really being talked about and pushed now is when that comes back next fall, when the session starts, which it will, the half penny on the sales tax, is there's a lot of senators now that are saying we will get behind this half penny on the sales tax if we could earmark Omaha's extra revenue to go towards funding moving from a defined benefit to a defined contribution plan. Because that will take some money, because what you got to do, you will have to continue funding the defined benefit plan now for the retirees. And you could change the new hires to a defined contribution, but it's the active now. It'll cost money because you'd have to fund both. But they're saying, here's something that we would do for Omaha. We will support this if that's what you use that revenue for. So it's quite an interesting concept, but I will tell you, I do believe that the speaker is behind that concept. So you may see more of this in the legislature next year, which is something I know you didn't talk about, but
That's
you
all
know,
right. It's relevant.
Yeah, the defined benefit, the pension program that we have now, I think, as you mentioned, the big talk nationwide and every magazine you can read, is that it used to work, but we are finding it doesn't work anymore because cities just can't afford it. And the only way we're going to really get out of it from under it, and so that this won't keep on happening over and over in the future, is to move out of that defined benefit and move into defined contribution. So anyway, they are doing a study in the legislature this year on that in the retirement committee, and there is really a push to use that sales tax revenue for that. So that's interesting.
In the World Herald yesterday, Senator Ashford was saying that the CIR bill wasn't crafted, to get Omaha out of the problems that they got themselves into in 2003. That's a fair analysis, I guess. But he said, or the World Herald said that Omaha is going to have to negotiate their way out of this predicament. My question, or maybe I'd ask the councilman, who chooses the negotiators for the city of Omaha? Is it the mayor's office or the city council? Because I still have a strong gut feeling that the negotiators and the mayor's office and the fire unions and the police unions are just too cozy, period.
The guy holding the microphone right now is having a hard time staying silent, but let's hear from the council members first.
Right now, it used to be where the council had that role of choosing who the negotiator would be, but then they gave it up, and the reason why they gave it up is because 7 people would argue and it became a political football. So they decided it's better to have one person do it. There's some wisdom to that, but it just depends on who the one person is. If you can get one person like this gentleman saying, then it becomes advantageous to the voters, and then you get another kind of a person, it becomes advantageous to the unions. Right now, I have not been happy with our negotiator for the last 8-10 years. And I feel that our negotiator has worked more in favor of unions than on your behalf. Having said that, are we revisiting that? Yes, we are. We're revisiting that question, and we're trying to take a look at what our options are. We began talking about that at least 1.5 years ago, and I think it's time to reevaluate the question of who does the hiring, and not only who, but what kind of a negotiator do you get? If in fact we're going to be working on behalf of citizens, we need a negotiator that thinks in terms of fairness for taxpayers first, and then second, fairness for unions. At least 50-50, but right now I don't feel it's 50-50.
Or get an independent negotiator. You know, our negotiator now works for the mayor. Steve Kerrigan is the head negotiator now. We have other negotiators that the mayor has hired that work this year. An attorney, Steve Bogue, an attorney, Pat Barrett. They've all been negotiating the contract, but the Steve Kerrigan is the chief negotiator, and he is hired and he works for the mayor. So, you know, whenever you got a negotiator working for anybody that's elected, you do what that person tells you to. And that's why we've had a lot of conversation about when we're getting down to negotiating a contract, we should have an independent negotiator come in, somebody that doesn't work for a mayor or a council member or anybody, somebody that's not vested in the city, but somebody that really understands labor negotiations. It would be worth anything that we would have to pay them. Not anything, but it would be worth a lot, because in the long run, I'm sure we would save millions. So it's a conversation we're having.
I hope I'm right with this. Let me just share a scenario, and if I got it wrong, somebody correct me. But imagine having a mayor getting strong support from the fire union, and the mayor and the fire union president becoming real tight friends. And imagine the labor negotiation firm for the union happens to be the law firm that's the brother of the mayor. Then imagine the personnel director of the city being the godparent of one of the mayor's children, I think. Now, I might be wrong about that. But then imagine that union president becoming the fire chief of the city of Omaha. And then that union president, now fire chief, appointing previous union officers that they brought with them from the union to come onto the city side to negotiate on your behalf. That's
No,
can't happen.
Could never happen.
That's exactly what happened in Omaha.
Yeah.
As far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong.